might have been set up in life where your dad owns the oil company that ran the Century. And now you get all the access to anybody, anything. You can go anywhere. You got education. You got all these things. How many of those people in a similar situation have really done something with it?
Really, God invested in us when he created us. And the question is, what was his expectation in that investment?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Today for Tomorrow podcast. If you didn't notice, we're in a different place, right?
Yes, we are. Look, and like Martell said, we are honored actually to be here because if you don't know it, it's called Survive Streetwear. Now, Survive Streetwear ain't no normal store, okay? They are actually here with a purpose. Now, I'm gonna read the mission because it's right behind me. It says, Survive is a social streetwear that embraces the message to exist and continue in spite of adversity. With each purchase, a portion of the proceeds go to help those who are homeless and those who need to be fed. So Josh invited us down. He checked out the podcast. He's a behind the scene brother. We would love to get him on camera, but we're gonna give him a shout out. You come down downtown Detroit and check out Survive Streetwear. So I'm gonna kick it back to you, Martell.
Sweet. Thanks again, Josh. People, today we have God and Money part three. Part three. The first two went very interestingly. We got a lot of feedback on those. This one in particular was inspired by, I believe it was Luke 19 and then Matthew 24.
25.
25.
You can check me. You can check me.
But like, for those that don't know, that's about the parable of the talents in Matthew, and then there's the parable of the minas. And a lot of people, I mean, if you go, you might have heard a message about this, okay? And chances are, sometimes you might hear a message about it, and they'll talk about, oh yeah, you know, the parable, Jesus was talking about talents, like, you know, how many gifts and abilities that you have, and then, you know, sharing it with other people and things like that. That's not what it's about. That's not what it's about. Sorry. Spoiler alert for anybody out there who's holding on to that belief. That's not what it's about. So in both of these, what was being given to the different servants, just a brief overview, what was being given to the servants was a form of money, okay? And the story goes that there was a master, there was a king, he went off, he handed the three servants some different stuff. In both stories, there's a different portion amount, but then he came back and he was collecting, right? He was trying to figure out exactly how much, what they did with what he gave them, okay? And one of them came back 100% profit. He came back with more than what he started with. The second one, again, profit. He came back with more than what he started with. And the third one just put it away, you know, just kept it hidden, tucked away, you know, in his mattress or something. And then he didn't do anything with it. And then when the master had came back to see, you know, what did you guys do with what I gave you? They all told him. And he was happy with the first shoe, and then he was really upset with the last one. And so today I want to talk about, are you a good investment? We can go into the story a little bit further in the conversation.
When you say that question, you got to think, okay, if somebody invests in me, am I worth it? Are they going to get a payout? Are they going to get something from this? Or, you know, am I not worth investing in? Because you got to self-check. You got to understand that, okay, if somebody gives me something, like in that parable, what would I do with it? Is it going to grow with me? Or is it going to get, well, most people going to spend it, you know, but the point though is what's going to happen with what somebody give me?
One thing that always catches people's attention is the amounts of money that is coming in and out. And they're like, well, if I spend this much amount of money and I have to spend that much money, and the key word that I always point out is the fact that we have to understand it's a major difference between spending and, like you said, investing. Because when you do an investment, you expect a return on your investment. And that's going back to the scripture. When God gave the different men these amounts of money, he expected a return. Now, What I think about is that old saying that we always heard growing up, that you have to be faithful over few before you're gonna get big dreams. And a lot of times, especially in our community, we have big dreams, but along the way, we get derailed and discouraged because if we don't accomplish these big things, then we feel like a failure.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we work with a lot of kids, and one of the first things that I try to point out to them is that you have to have like little micro goals throughout your day. It's not even like, a month, a week, and these guys know I'm always talking about win the day. Anytime somebody talks about these big lofty goals, I love it, I encourage it, but the thing that we have to understand as a people is that before we can have these big major goals, we gotta be faithful over few.
Really, God invested in us when he created us.
Yeah.
And the question is, for one, what was his expectation in that investment? Because you said it, when you invest some money, you have to have expectation.
Yep.
And that parable tells you that the expectation is not give me exactly back what I gave you. The expectation is you're gonna take what I've given you, use it, grow it. And God, by creating us, he expects us to grow.
Exactly.
One thing that I thought was really interesting about it, it was towards the end of the parable. So he has the 3 servants. He's gonna give them some of what he has, and then he's gonna leave, and then he's coming back. So I'm like, why did he give it to them? Was there something special about them? Were they, better than the other people? But he says he gave it to them according to their ability. And what I thought was interesting is when he came back and then he collected and he saw what they did, he then gave them more. He said, so the one that he gave 5, I said, look, I'm gonna give you 5 more. You got 10 now. 2, I'm gonna give you some more. 1, wait a minute. But he gave them more, and then the one that tucked it away and then didn't do anything with it, he took it from him and then gave it to the one who had the most. Like, that sounds messed up. It's like, well, what happened to equality, equal opportunity?
No.
But it's like, if I'm thinking about this as a king, right? I'm thinking about where is my investment going to do the most? And so the one who came back with the most, who doubled what he had, that makes sense because he had his ability. He's shown that he's able to actually increase. And so of course I'm gonna take this. This is a bad investment over here. This ain't producing nothing for me. So let me go ahead and put it over here.
Yeah.
And so it made so much sense to me when he actually did that, when you put it into the actual frame of a king. But then my question too is like, okay, so if he gave it to these people and then he gave them more afterwards, was the giving it to them in the first place, was that some sort of test to see if they would be able to handle more?
I want to put there's a nuance between Luke and Matthew. I just want to lay that out there because some biblical scholars are going to be like, that's not right, but the point though is you're dead on. In Matthew, with the talents, that was it. But in the Luke version, that parable, he gave 10 talents. He gave it to multiple people. Each person got 1 talent. Or not talent, menace or whatever.
Yeah.
And the kingdom piece you brought up is something that gets missed in this whole parable too, because I'm glad you brought that up, because one says he's a noble going to claim his kingdom.
Right.
Okay, so that's Jesus symbolism, right? So he's going to, and so he's going off, to your point, he's giving this to these individuals with the intent that, hey, when I come back, they're gonna grow wealth. They're gonna do something. So your question, what he gave it to him, but I shouldn't say he took a chance. He knew it was gonna happen. But when we do things, when we invest, you're looking, you're evaluating, you see signs, right? In the beginning, because I definitely want to hear what you got to say on this. You will see something in a property, and you'll say, either it's a good investment or bad investment. You'll see people you work with, same with you, either a good investment or bad investment. But sometimes you still make mistakes. So what does that look like?
When someone's bringing a property to me, they're like, well, how much money are you looking to spend? And I always move the target on what I'm looking to spend to what's going to be my, what we call ARV. And that's the after repair value. So basically what I'm saying is the amount that I'm willing to invest depends on the amount that I'm thinking, I'm knowing based on data that I should be getting back. the way I've always looked at this verse is you do have a money aspect. That's a prominent aspect because I think about, just going to some other real world application is, someone once said, and a lot of you guys will know once I say it is, how can I help the poor if I'm one of them? You know what I'm saying? And that's the money aspect of where I heard that very early in my life. And I always thought about that, like, if I really want to impact people, I have to be a person that God puts me in position and I'm able to give back. If I'm struggling for myself, how can I ever give back? I got to take care of core needs. The investments that I always thought about with this verse is, in all kids, we see like special gifts. Yeah. And I always, tell the kids, like, listen, you are special and unique. God knew exactly what he was doing when he was making you. Like, don't ever question what your purpose is. You just have to find it. It's going to be revealed to you if you're willing to put in the work. Because like you mentioned, Rodney, God already knows the answer. He knows our heart. Mm-hmm. He knows that when we're going to go astray, and we all do from time to time, but we can always repent, admit our sins, and then come back to the light. So I do kind of look at it from a dual perspective when we're talking about a monetary investment, but also it does have some talent, play in there also.
When you bringing it back to us, like context to people, it's like we have, are you a good investment is the question. Are you a good investment? If I give you something, if you were given, the ability to sing, right? And then you had 80, 90 years to live on this earth. Did you do something with what you were given?
Yeah.
No, you sang a little bit here and there, but you were too scared to actually bring out things. So essentially at the end of it, you just come back with what I gave you.
So I shouldn't give up my singing career?
I don't know, Red.
you know what? We kind of laughing a little bit, but that's a real thing too. I think it's worth us kind of highlighting also, because another way I've always looked at this verse is, if you don't utilize your talents that you've been given, it can and will be taken away from you. I've seen super talented people, and the most talented ones, they weren't the ones that made it to the NFL or the NBA. And the way I've always looked at it is, talent is not enough. It's not enough. Like, you gotta have a lot of different elements, a lot of different qualities in order to fully realize your potential. And that's why a lot of people don't do it, to be honest, because it's not easy.
People who have won the lottery and then lost it the next year. It's like, it doesn't, just because you had it or have it, doesn't mean that you know what to do with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like people, there's the verse about time and chance happens to everybody, right? So you might be presented with the greatest opportunity. Mm-hmm. You might have been set up in life where your dad owns the oil company that ran the century. And now you get all the access to anybody, anything. You can go anywhere. You got education. You got all these things. How many of those people in a similar situation have really done something with it?
The thing about when you go through those situations, mm-hmm. when somebody do invest in you, they're sitting back there watching. You learn when you do take that investment and it grows. And all three of us consider and say the same thing. Yeah. That we've learned from those opportunities we got. And when it grew, we learned from that, and it's like, okay, I can make this work. So it gives you confidence. Yeah. Now you go in and you do more. Yeah. And but God knows what we can do, mm-hmm. but we don't always know what we can do. And you know what I'm saying?
Definitely. I think a good point that you brought up is the fact that when you have it, you got to use it. You got to use it. And it's not just like, because you might be really good at singing, cool, but you also might be extremely organized. Your mm-hmm. mind just, for some reason, like, that board doesn't make sense to me, so I'm gonna go ahead and fix all the pieces on it. And then somehow that organization piece goes the same for your creative work. That same organization piece goes for your finances. And then this is a gift for you that you use, and it takes all these different forms. But the thing is, once you don't use it, if you just sit on the gift, because if I gave you $10 and I'm expecting you to make $10, $20, mm-hmm. and you just came back with $10, you wasted my time. I could have invested it somewhere else.
How do we view gifts? Because you have a group of people where let's say a Lamborghini, okay, which we know is a high value vehicle.
You went way up there, though.
I went way up there. If we gonna go, let's go big. Let's say we got a Lamborghini, but let's say a person knew they would get a new Lamborghini every year for the rest of their life. They knew it. They didn't have to work for it. They didn't earn it. It was gifted to them. You have a certain segment of people where, because it was gifted to them, they don't care about it. They don't treat it as anything worth even, I'm getting another one, who cares? Versus other people, when they get gifted something, they value it. It could be a toy car, Lamborghini. Yeah. But they keep it up, especially don't let anybody touch it. They go polish it up, make sure it's not dusty, because they value either what the gift represents, who the person was that gifted it to them, and something about that makes them say, you know what? I want to cherish this and I want to treat it as something like priceless. And so I think that's when we go back to the root of how we're viewing this. When we talk about our talents, our money, whatever we're talking about, we have to practice humility and understand we aren't the owners of these. We're using the word gift a lot because they really were gift. The fact that we are speaking in these chairs right now, Josh has a business that he owns that's giving back to our community. That's a gift. He's been entrusted with this responsibility. We've been entrusted with speaking to the masses. So we have a responsibility to make sure that we're saying the right things.
Well, let's look at both sides of it. And we talked around it a little bit, but how can someone be a good investment and how can they be a bad investment as it relates to God and what he's given us? I don't know who want to jump on that first.
When it comes to in relation to God, I think we have to understand that God doesn't create anything for no reason. Nothing. There's not a single thing that is on this planet that didn't have a purpose. And so having that in mind, then you got to understand, okay, so if there's a purpose for it, then that must mean that, and this is just the way God works. That means that the tools to actually accomplish the purpose are within that thing. So, if I got a screwdriver, the screwdriver was meant to screw something, okay? And so that means that the design of the tip is meant specifically to do this thing. And it's got a handle so that someone can hold it and then turn it so that it can do what it was designed to do. We're the same way. But the difference is inside of us, he gave us these different gifts, these different abilities. And then he also put us in a particular time period. Because, it was no accident that you were born here.
Yeah.
There was no accident that we're in this time period together. And because God don't just do random stuff. He's very intentional about the things that he does. And so talking about if I'm a good investment, first, I think I need to assess, what am I made of? Actually, before that, whose am I? And then what do I have with me? Like, what do I got to work with? And now understanding, okay, now I understand who I came from. I understand the mind of that. I understand the mind of Christ. I understand what his purpose is and his goal, his will for me. And now I understand what I actually have. He's got a bunch of promises in this book and the full complete guidelines of how to do anything that I need to do here on this planet. I'm going to go ahead and make sure I got that and then assess myself, self-reflection. We've talked about that a billion times, every episode. I see who I am, and then I execute. I use what I have to the best that I possibly can within alignment with the goal of the one that created me.
So if we think about actually like even where we're at, the building, the clothing, apparel line is called Survive. And when I think about just the spirit of being from this place right here, Detroit, the tagline, to exist and continue in spite of adversity. When we talk about what makes you a good investment, what I always tell people, one of the first things is when I'm building out my team is I need to know that when tough times come, are you gonna stand and we gonna fight together, or are you gonna fold up like tinfoil? And I tell them straight up because I need somebody that's going to move forward in spite of adversity. And so when I think about God's plan for us, like the verse Jeremiah 29:11, a part of what makes me always go forward in spite of adversity is the fact that I know God has a plan for me. And just because I have an obstacle or it looks like I'm going through a tough time, that's never gonna be enough for me to crumble. As long as I have breath in my lungs, I'm gonna keep fighting. That's just how I'm made. That's how I'm built, because it's not me. It's not people ask me all the time, like, man, Mike, how do you stay uplifted? You always seem like, I say, listen, bro, I go through challenging times just as much as the most people. Now, I don't advertise them mostly. I mean, we talk in private conversations sometimes, but the fact that we can keep moving forward when tough times come, I think that's one of the biggest returns that you can give somebody when they invest. Just show them that you're not gonna quit when times get tough.
Man, I love that you hit that verse. That's one of my favorite verses. So Jeremiah 29:11, for those who don't know it, it's like God said, I has a plan for you, says Lord, for good, not disaster, a plan for hope and a future.
Yeah.
And it goes back to that whole thing about having a purpose. And man, so we talking about good investments. Now, let's be real. There are bad investments.
Oh, 100%.
And let's also be real. And I'm not gonna name no names, but around New Year's Eve.
Who is it?
New Year's Eve, I saw some stuff on the internet, and they was that this one church doing some stuff. I ain't gonna name the song, but you know what I'm talking about then. But the point I'm saying is that there are people who are very talented. I'm gonna talk as a pastor. There are pastors who are very talented. They have hundreds and thousands of people following them. They are gifted at delivering the word of God. They are charismatic. They might even be doing some great things in the community. But they're using their gift not to glorify God and his kingdom, but they're using it to glorify their pockets.
Yeah.
That is a bad investment.
I think I love that you brought us to that point, because I think there's like this misconception that, oh, well, you know what, because, you believe in God, so therefore you should have the talent. No, it's in you already. So how you use it, God is not going to make you go do something. He puts it inside of you, and you have the opportunity to go do with it what you choose, right? Because the one of them put his in the ground, didn't do nothing. And so it's like we see these people who have done, great, terrible things. Absolutely disastrous things to society. And it's like those same gifts and abilities that they had, they could have used it a different way. We talk about Martin Luther King and his ability to bring people together, his speaking ability. He decided to go the route that he went. He could have chose another route, because we have plenty of gang bosses who have done the same thing in a different way.
When we're talking about gifts being used one way versus the other, something that was always told to me when I was young was a pastor could be a pimp. It's the same gift. Like it really is, when you really study the power to influence and have people congregate and basically give money. How you use the money, that's where the godliness comes in. Because it's the power to attract other people and make them believe in your cause. Like when you said Martin Luther King and you talking about the opposite, I thought about Hitler.
Yeah.
It's the same gift. This man was an amazing leader. Now he led for evil things. He was working for the enemy, but it's the same gift. What if God could have touched his heart through somebody? He could have influenced people to do something great.
The word pimp, we don't want to offend nobody, but we use another word, but it's real. There's some pimps out there. But a salesman, I think, is probably another term you can use too. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm trying, when I give the word, I am giving you and selling you the word of God. You buy it. You choose to buy it or not buy it. So, I'm trying to sell you the truth. Some people try to sell you a lie. One
other thing I do want to add on that, just to kind of, get this thing back on the rails. So in the spirit of positivity, because that's what we want to motivate people. Somebody else I thought about was Malcolm X. Where early in his walk, before he found himself, he was using his gift in worldly ways, we'll say, Later, once he found his true calling, he was able to, kind of get that thing on track and use his power of influence in a whole different way. And the reason why, I feel this is important is because, we talk about it a lot with the mentoring and giving back to the kids or just younger men, period, is when you see somebody that is, not maybe where they should be, don't automatically just give up on people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you never know how being in the right environment, around the right people, where you can completely change this person's atmosphere. Rodney and I, we talk about wrestling a lot because he wrestled, my boys wrestle. And I was just talking to him about how I'm so proud, but I'm also kind of, I don't want to say I'm shocked at how much progress my boys have made, but I understand that it's the environment that they were put in. And they've risen to the challenge, and it's a beautiful thing. And it makes me think about just all those other kids that maybe didn't have somebody put in this, in the right environments, and then they completely went off track when they really were good kids, though. They had all the special, unique qualities inside of them, but for one reason or another, reasons why we can't explain, it just never really, got on track for them.
Mike, he brought up a really an outstanding point when he was talking about the ability to persevere. Because it's like you said it earlier, you can have talent. Yeah. You can have all the talent in the world, congratulations. But if as soon as something gets a little difficult, you foil, you fold up like tinfoil, then you useless at that point.
Yeah.
But if you actually have the ability, because God gave you the gifts. Let's not think that there's anybody excluded from that. You have gifts. God gave it to you. But if you use them, your ability to use them, that's going to be on you. Mm-hmm. And if you stop, you can. Sometimes it's just going to. Well, there's always a sowing and there's a reaping. And so therefore, if you didn't sow and you didn't nurture, then you can't get to that other side. And so therefore, if you stop, or say you put it in the ground, you looked at it, you didn't see a tree, you walked away, you can't get to the other side.
Your gift, if you don't utilize them correctly, it can feel like a curse. Because I've seen that many times where, let's say an athlete, they've reached the pinnacle of stardom for whatever, let's say high school, they were All-American, everybody's throwing roses at their feet, they can do no wrong. But it doesn't quite work out for them. And when they crash, they come back to earth, they tend to come back hard, because in my mind, it's like you tasted what if you had like a drop of it. It's different having like a thought or using your imagination. Like, I wonder what that feels like. Yeah. But when you actually know you had all the talent in the world and you could have done it if you would have been a little bit more diligent and worked harder, and then you come back to a harsh reality, I think that weight is more heavy than never ever touching it. Like that lottery example you use. When you touch that $1 million and then you blew right through it, that's a whole different level of impact when you're thinking like, man, I had it, and then I squandered it.
Man, that's a great example. Now, I was just thinking about as you was giving that example, just thinking about that Lamborghini, having a Lamborghini, and then going to a Pinto, huh? Going back to the Pinto. You know what I mean? It's like having a new ride. I mean, in some ways, having a new ride, and then all of a sudden you got to go back to the hoop deck.
J. Cole had a bar, and it was talking. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like he was pretty much talking about the people who spend so much time talking about the millionaires. You guys are wrong, and you guys are bad, and the billionaires, you guys are evil, and it's like, and he's like, most of y'all ain't never tried it. Like, you ain't never had it.
Yeah. That's why you hating on it.
Yeah.
So what you saying is really let's go back to the investment piece again. Those who've been invested in and who are reaping, having that return on investment, showing it and using their gifts, growing their gifts, and blowing up and doing things. Don't hate on them because you're not using yours.
And I won't even, last point, it's not, in my opinion, it's not even those who haven't. We've all been invested in because we're here. Yeah. That's the crazy thing where it's really sad when you see somebody and they don't believe, they don't have any type of hope or dream for themselves. And people think confidence is something that you wear, you put on. It's not that.
It's not genetic either.
You can't just go buy something and put it on, and that's fake confidence. That's fake confidence. You should have the ultimate confidence because everybody on this earth has been investing in. Because when you really look at what it takes to going into creating a life, it's not as easy as it seems with all these people running around aimless, right? All these people had a reason why they were able to come into this world. But whether they know it or not, that's the tricky part.
When God gives you a mission, he gives you all the tools you need. So the confidence is not in our ability. The confidence in the fact that we know God gonna take us where we need to go.
So just keep going.
Just keep going.
Yep.
Just keep going.
Hey, that's the episode. Thanks for watching. But then also too, we have the men's group. We just started back up for the year.
New Year, yes.
Roddy, go ahead and take it.
Bro, the Man 2.0, come out and join us second Saturday every month. We in Ferndale and Cabizos, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. But keep an eye out, because we are gonna look to move locations at some point, because God is blessing us to actually have a new location coming our way. So look, but right now, second Saturday of the month, that will not change. 10 a.m., that will not change. The only thing that will change is that you need to come join us.
All right, we'll see y'all in the next episode.
Peace.